So today's topic is dictionaries, and we have the interactive dictionary thing here. So let's take a look at this. This is the textbook. All right, so we talked last time about lists. Lists are sort of your general all-purpose way to store data and manipulate it. It's very, very powerful. Dictionaries are a special kind of structure, a little different than a list. A list would just have items like 0, 1, and 2. And that's fine. You can have anything you want. And you can then refer to lists of 1, and that will refer to, counting at 0, that'll refer to item number 1, which is 1. But suppose you want to go and look up a word to get the corresponding integer. You want to take this alphabetical word and get the digit 1. You can't do that with a list, but for that you need a dictionary. And a dictionary, as you'd expect from the name, is something that translates one representation of something to another representation of the same information. So dictionaries use curly braces instead of square brackets. So you define a list here, a dictionary, and now in there, you add items to the dictionary, you refer to what the item number 0 equals 0. And therefore, now your list will look like this, 0, 0. And this is a very common arrangement. You'll see this in JSON objects for JavaScript and many other things. You have the name, value. And so you can add more items like this. Item number 1, item number 2 equals 2, and so on. Now you have something, a dictionary that will translate the alphabetical description of a number to the digit. So you can look things up by the key, which is the first element, 2, and find out what 2 is. If it's not in the dictionary, you'll get a key error telling you it's not there. And you can do the length function. And the length will tell you how many items there are, and there are 3, because each name value pair is 1 item. So there are 3 items in this list, in this dictionary, I should say. All right, so it's a mapping from keys to values. That's one way to look at it, and they have one of these state diagrams that might make it more clear. So there you go. You have, these are the keys, 0, 1, and 2, and they map to these data values, 0, 1, and 2. All right, so we can create an empty dictionary and then add things to it. You can also just do it all at once like this. All right, you can use the dict function. Make an empty dictionary like this, and you can make a copy of a dictionary like this. Dict of numbers, that's another one way to make a copy. All right. Now you can check to see if a key is in the dictionary by this. If it is 1 in numbers, that'll tell you if it's a key. And it's true. It will not check whether it appears as a value. Is 1 in numbers? The answer is no. It's there as a value, but it's not a key for the dictionary. Now, if you want to check if values is there, then you can do numbers.values. And 1 is in there. In fact, I would like to know what numbers.values itself looks like. Let's try that. Just enter there. What does that look like? There, it's just a dict value structure. It's a structure with 0, 1, and 2. I thought it might just be a list, but it looks like it's a little bit more complicated structure. All right, so the point is they're stored in a hash table. Hash tables are extremely useful. Hash tables are just designed to quickly turn the key into a number, and then it stores it at that offset calculated from that number. So it can look things up really fast, and it doesn't matter where it is in the dictionary. It'll take exactly the same amount of time to reach every object, because you take the key, you turn it into an offset, and you go to that offset. So it's just a hashing operation followed by a jump forward by a certain number of bytes to find an object, which is great. So it doesn't matter how many items are in a dictionary. If your dictionary gets larger, it doesn't take any additional time to find the items in the dictionary. It's really very nice. So here we're going to get, I think this is the list of 100,000 words you've used before. So we're going to read it and split it. Yep, and here we are. Yep, 113,000 words. And so we're going to reverse word from the previous chapter. Loops through the words for each one, reverses the letters. Okay. And this is going to find the palindrome. So it's going to find if the words reversed are in there. So this is that defines the function. And so now this is going to be too slow. This is going to, for each word in the word list, it's going to check to see if the reverse of the word is in the word list and count 1. This is going to take 2 entire loops through the whole list. It's going to, if you know, scale is n squared. So it's going to read all 100,000 words, and then for each one of them, it's going to look through all 100,000 words again to see if the reversed word is in the word list. So that's going to take the 100,000 squared operations. That'll take a long time to run. That's the problem. The in operator here is going to have to do 100,000 compares, hunting through the word list to see if it's in there. So that's pretty slow. And so to measure how long it takes, you can use percent time. That's one way to do it. And all right, anyway, like we say, it's going to be 100,000 squared, which is a ridiculous number of things to do. So we're going to make it faster with the dictionary. Now we're going to add to the dictionary, we're going to add words in the word list, and we're going to give a value of 1 to every word. So the word is going to be keys, and the values are all going to be 1. All right, now the point is, we don't really care about the values, but we do care about the fact that you can look things up really fast in a dictionary. So now, this is going to be a dictionary for word in word dictionary. If it's in word dictionary, count this. This is going to take almost no time. And I guess that's because the key, to see if the key is in there, instead of having to hunt through every value, all it has to do is hash it and then take one jump in to see if there's an item at that hash value. And if there is, it finds it. That's the point. A dictionary is organized, whereas a list is disorganized. It's just a list of items. So that's the idea. And so this will be much faster. And so you can time how long it'll take, and it takes just a matter of a few milliseconds, whereas the other one took more than a minute. So that's one big advantage of dictionaries. The data is organized, so you can search through it much faster than lists, which are not necessarily organized. You can sort them, though. It takes time to sort a list, and in this case, even sorting it wouldn't really do any good unless we reversed it and then sorted the reversed list. Then after that, it could be efficient, but a dictionary is a faster, simpler way to make this task faster. So now, if we want to count each time, no matter how many times a letter appeared, we'll start with an empty dictionary. Well, if you couldn't count through them, if we see the A for the first time, we're going to count, that's an A. We've seen the letter once. If we see it again, we'll add to it. All right, so now counter has 2 A's. So now we're just going to count the number of times each letter appears in a string. So it's going to count through every letter. If letter is not in the counter, it'll add it with 1. Otherwise, it'll add 1 to the value and return the counter. So that'll do the counting. And so now we can count for Brontosaurus, and we get that. There's 2 O's and 2 R's and 1 B and so on. All right. Now, you can use, in a for statement, you can use the dictionary. So we're going to have counter is the value counts a banana. And that's going to create a dictionary with its various letters. Now we're going to print the keys, which are the letters. All right. And we can print the values by printing the value in counter values. All right. We can print them both this way, key and value, if you want to. All right. You can put a list in as a value. Here's a dictionary that has the number 4, and then it has a list with 4 items there. But you can't. You can put it in as a value, but you can't put it in as a key, and that's because a list is unhashable. You have to be able to perform a hashing operation, and they don't support performing a hash operation on a list. Actually, I don't understand any terribly good reason why they couldn't, but anyway, Python does not allow you to hash a list. All right. And that's, of course, one reason. Keys have to be hashable, and mutable types aren't. That's another option. If you were to change the list, that would change the hash value, and it probably doesn't have any way to keep up with those changes. All right. So you might want to loop through one dictionary while building another. We can jump through that long list of words and make a list of palindromes, words that are spelled the same forward and backward, like noon and rotator. So we wanted a function to see if it's a palindrome. Here's a solution that uses reverse word. So it is palindrome of word. You see, does reverse word equal word? Okay, that's a simple way to see if this word is a palindrome. If you loop through the words in dictionary, you can count them like this, and you'll find there are 91 palindromes in that list of 100,000 words. All right. And you can make a list of palindromes. I mean, if it is palindrome, add it here, that's fine. So there's a list, and here's the first 10 of them. All right. Well, that should be pretty obvious. You can look for long palindromes. There's 7 or more letters. So you only take it in the palindromes list we've already created up here. We're just going to go through there and pick out the ones that have length greater than or equal to 7. And now we only have a few of them. All right. And you may remember the Fibonacci program, where the longer the argument is, the bigger the n, the more longer it takes to run, because this is an iterative function. Every time you call Fibonacci, it calls Fibonacci again twice, so it makes more copies of it in memory. It uses up a lot of memory. It's extremely wasteful. It's going to calculate the same thing many times, but that's Fibonacci, and so we can try doing it for the first few values here, and it's going to show you. There, it's going to make a diagram of it. There we go. So this is what it looks like to do Fibonacci of 5. You have to do 4 and 3, and 3 has to do 2 and 1, and 4 has to do 3 and 2, and 2 has to do 1 and 0, and this 2 has to do 1 and 0. So as you can see, there's a lot of repetitive things. They end up with a lot of copies of this thing in memory, and you end up doing the same calculation many times. This is an inefficient solution to the problem. So one thing that would be better would be to keep a dictionary of solved values. So now you go, your Fibonacci looks to see if we already know, and when you're done, it puts the known one in here. So you only do each one once. That's a better solution. All right. And so now if you time Fibonacci of 40, that took 30 seconds to run, they say, although it didn't seem to here. This one takes about 30 microseconds, a million times faster. All right. I don't know why that one didn't print it out. Oh, it's got a pound in it. Yeah, I think we didn't do it because we didn't want to wait 30 seconds. They commented it out. If I get rid of the comment, it'll take 30 seconds to run. But anyway, that's the point. It's much, much faster because you use a dictionary and you don't have to hunt through a list hunting for things. All right. And so we've got more standard debugging options and more standard values here. So that's what I wanted to show you about dictionaries today. Let me stop this one.